Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre this Friday evening. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. A leading channel offers a detailed deal to the Chhattisgarh government for coverage from news capsules to the use of the channel's ticker or scroll. Both sides are insisting that this is a legitimate deal and not paid news at all. In an increasingly grey zone, we ask just who should define what constitutes paid news. Another big focus tonight, a young major who's taken the Indian Army to court in order to marry the woman he loves, a Sri Lankan national. Is this really a battle about personal freedom versus national security? Should the Army have the last word on who its officers marry? Well, that discussion coming up in a moment from now. But first, an expose by the Indian Express that's brought the spotlight firmly back on what constitutes paid news. A sales proposal was presented by Sahara Samay to the Chhattisgarh government, promising a whole range of news coverage, from 2-minute news capsules aired 15 times a day to live telecasts of the Chief Minister's public meetings, even the use of the channel's ticker. Well, channels including Sahara Samay and Z24, among others, argue that this is not paid news but legitimate ways of generating revenue. In this increasingly slippery slope, just who is thinking of the viewer?
Over 200 documents that hint at the unholy nexus between the Chhattisgarh government and private television channels, bringing the spotlight back on the issue of paid news. Take a look at the rate card reported in the Indian Express. According to the proposals accepted by the BJP-ruled Raman Singh government state PR department, it says for a deal of a 2-minute package of government speeches, policies 15 times a day, the cost is 3.28 crores per year at 3,000 rupees per minute. Sahara Samay will showcase Chief Minister's speeches, run special stories on government policies, all at the cost of 3.2 crores per year. Then, at the cost of 48 lakhs per year for 4 broadcasts, the channel will be obliged to cut live to the CM's public meetings, visits or addresses, and will get 48 lakhs per year for 4 broadcasts. Government schemes will be put on the ticker for 10 hours a day, 5 of those during prime time. And finally, the channel will run a side panel which displays, quote, a beautiful picture of Raman Singh with children. The cost, 14.6 lakh rupees per year. It's not just this one deal with Sahara Samay. An RTI activist has accessed details of many other negotiations with Z24, ETV, Chhattisgarh and Sadhana News. The Chhattisgarh government has denied charges of paid news, calling it just coverage deals. The channels argue that it doesn't matter who's funding the stories as long as the stories are genuine. But activists claim there is a very thin line between the two.
एक अधिकारी हैं जो जनसंपर्क विभाग में आयुक्त हैं, कमिश्नर हैं, वो इस तरीके की पॉलिसियां डेवलप करते हैं कि पत्रकारों को किस तरीके से खरीदा जाए। सरकार को भी गुमराह कर रहे हैं और जनता को भी गुमराह कर रहे हैं, मतलब खबरों का पैसा दे रहे हैं। इससे पत्रकारिता दम तोड़ रही है छत्तीसगढ़ में।
The opposition, however, has been quick to cash in on the advertorial controversy.
ये एक्चुअल में मिसलीडिंग है और अपनी गलतियों को छुपाने का एक प्रयास है रमन सिंह जी के द्वारा, जो नहीं होना चाहिए।
With the media already under the scanner after 2 senior Z editors were arrested on extortion charges, the big question remains: is it possible to police paid news? And who decides what paid news is? In Raipur with camera person Rizwan Khan, Siddharth Ranjan Das for NDTV.
Well, that's our big focus tonight, just who defines what is paid news. Joining us tonight, Narayan Sharma, the RTI activist whose query led to that deal coming out into the public domain. Paranjoy Guha-Thakurta, who has written a book, in fact, on media ethics and paid news. Madhu Trehan, journalist, media watcher, editor of News Laundry, the web portal that keeps an eagle eye on all of us. And M.K. Singh of the Broadcast Editors Guild. Madhu Trehan, if I can begin with you, do you think this is proof of some sort of a murky deal between a state government and a media house? What do you make of their argument that this is a legitimate coverage deal?
Oh my God. First of all, you start with your correspondent says, how do we define what is paid news? You've already pushed it into a morally grey area, which is the worst thing to do. It's black and white. If you pay for any kind of coverage, whether it's in print or television, that is paid news. And because the moral fiber of our country, from leadership down, has become what it is, immorality is no longer immorality, it's the new normal. And that is what is frightening, that the kind of justification that one reads, that the channels that were exposed, where he says, the Z24 editor says that it's wrong to call this arrangement paid news, it's mere selling of slots. If you're selling a space to give the kind of information that somebody else wants you to show them in a positive light, that is paid news. There's no argument in that. Now, the fact is that this expose is not new. Paranjoy has done, you worked 6 months for free, unpaid, for the press council, where he really exposed all the paid news that is happening. What happened to that? That the press council members buried the report. The fact is that it got leaked. That was a good thing, that his work didn't go waste. But what was the impact? It's gotten worse and worse and worse. So what I'm asking you, don't ask the question, is it paid news? It is paid news. The question to ask today is, how can we bring people back to what is normal, ethical practice? That is the question to ask. How do we bring them back?
Fair enough. NK Singh, paid news, normal ethical media practices, a lot of the arguments that we hear from channels is, how do you then generate revenue? Advertising revenue is not enough. That's the line that seems to be taken rather a lot. But is that a fair line of argument at all?
No, not the least. For the past 3 years, I have been defending media, showing positive side of this industry. But today I can say that there is something very seriously wrong about media. This is the finest and most discreet kind of corruption that media has involved itself in. The way it is being done, nobody can say any news has a credibility. You cannot have that credibility and still you can have money. So money cannot go with credibility. So the moment you do, first thing you should have done, this is advertisement. ADVT must have been mentioned there.
But do you believe that it's all right to carry a paid story as long as you disclose it?
No, it isn't. Why? Why can't you put it as a clear ad? You're basically deciding that we're going to fool the people by putting a tiny little thing like advertorial or impact feature and write it like editorial copy and fool people into thinking who will possibly, they're banking on the fact that they will miss that little advertorial. Now, one thing, like the question that you asked him, and I love the word you've coined, pedia, for paid media. This question that you asked that they have to survive because the revenues are so low. That is like asking that if I can't sell my milk, if Amul can't sell milk, then let's adulterate it, because then we can break even and make money. You can't. There are certain professions. There are certain professions like medicine, the legal profession, lawyers. They're a service to the people. It's good if you do make money, but the primary goal is your public service. If you forget that and you start diluting the milk, adulterating the news and saying that it's okay, this whole grey area is so troubling.
Even our constitution doesn't permit it. Article 19 1A, under which we have got this greatest freedom of expression. They are riders. There are riders in that, and there are certain restrictions. 8 restrictions are there, and the state has not been given to decide what is public interest. But conversely, when it is 19(1)(g), where you have a right to profession, you practice any profession that you choose, there the public interest is decided by the state. Means that if you are going by balance sheet, you forfeit the right to have freedom of expression, because then you fall under 19(1)(g). Therefore, the moment anybody says that no, because it generates revenue and the regional media is in a very bad shape, when you say this, it means that you have forfeited the right which you enjoy otherwise in freedom of expression.
Forfeited the right. Let me go across to Narayan Sharma, whose RTI actually brought this latest instance out into the public domain. Narayan Sharma, what made you in the first place question the PR department in Chhattisgarh? What made you file that RTI query?
मैंने पीआर डिपार्टमेंट से ये जानना चाहा कि इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया को कितना कितना विज्ञापन किस संदर्भ में दिया गया। तो मुझे जानकारी प्राप्त हुई, उस जानकारी में विज्ञापन के तौर पर तो कम पैसा दिया गया और जो कार्यक्रम दिखाने के नाम पर और न्यूज दिखाने के नाम पर ज्यादा पैसा दिया गया। तो मुझे लगा कि ये जो है पेड न्यूज का मामला है और इस मामले को जनता के सामने लाया जाना चाहिए। यहाँ पर जो जनसंपर्क के कमिश्नर हैं एन विजेंद्र कुमार, उन्होंने मीडिया को एक तरीके से अपना गुलाम समझ लिया है कि वो अपनी खबरों का भी पैसा ले और विज्ञापन के लिए भी पैसा लो और कुछ भी ऐसा मत करो जो उनके खिलाफ दिखाई दे।
All right, so in a sense, this is, you're getting paid for advertising and you're getting paid for your coverage as well. So it's a sort of win-win deal in a sense for the media organization.
Actually, it is lose-lose for everybody else except for a few. It's lose-lose for the public at large. Look, I mean, if you even use that little small font size which you need a magnifying glass to look at, and a huge page which looks like a news item, and you say this is ADBT, at least you can claim you have a fig leaf of a disclaimer. But in this case you don't even have that. I mean, this is...
But you'd argue that even that's not good enough.
No. She's saying it's not good enough, yes. But I'm saying
it's
this
not good, period.
is downright fraud, cheating. You don't even have that, what I say, a fig leaf of a disclaimer. You are fooling your readers, you're fooling your viewers. What you're putting out as so-called news, which is supposed to be factual, objective, you are, in fact, many legal experts argue that you can even be sued under a very well-known section of the Indian Penal Code. It's called Section 420. It's straight fraud, deception, cheating. There's no doubt about it. Having said that,
sorry.
Yeah, this is a crisis that's happening across the world. You have a recession in the West.
A crisis that's happening across the world, but in other places you do have media regulators.
And not only that, you know, in Washington Post, Lally Weymouth had to put a public apology in her own newspaper, apologizing to her own journalist.